So this is my PEX manifold, and I plumbed my entire house, both the water lines, all the drain lines, and the vents, without any experience in plumbing whatsoever. I'll tell you how it went and what I think about this thing. If you're interested in building your own Barndo, then be sure to subscribe or like this video. Any comments or likes or engagement that you do really help this video, and it helps my channel. My whole goal with this channel is to help provide as much value to people that are interested in homesteading and building their own house. Plus, at some point, hopefully I can get AdSense revenue, and that'll help me to buy a new tractor. So let's talk plumbing, because for me, I always said this: I am not a plumber. I have no plumbing skills or plumbing abilities, and that's totally true. I have zero experience with plumbing. Growing up, both my parents were general contractors, and my dad's an electrician, and so I was able to grow up around construction. Definitely the best trade that I was electrical, because my dad did primarily electrical work, and so I definitely had a good understanding of how electrical systems worked for the most part. Like, nothing super complicated, just normal residential stuff. So that being said, I have zero plumbing experience, and I decided that with this house, we were going to do everything. The only things that we didn't do were concrete, because I didn't have experience with that. And actually, the wait times were longer to get concrete than if I had somebody else do it. And then also the septic system, because I didn't have experience with septic. Now, I will say, having done this system now with all the drain pipes and the vent pipes, I would feel confident putting in my own septic system now. But before, I didn't know anything about plumbing whatsoever. So did a ton of research, and I'm going to link to videos that were helpful for me and learning how to do plumbing, right? Right now at the stage that we have the downstairs finished, and we're still working on the upstairs. Obviously, you can see we're getting to the point where we're almost ready to do mudding, and we're ready to start finishing up the drywall, get stuff moved in up here. But we have a fully functional downstairs. We have a kitchen, we have a laundry room, we have a full bathroom, and I plumbed this all in a PEX manifold system. What PEX manifolds do is it's basically like a circuit breaker, which like your main panel for electrical, but with water. So each individual location in your house has its own dedicated hot and cold line, or if it's a toilet, just a dedicated cold line. So what ended up happening is we have each one of our runs has its own hot and cold. And with its own hot and cold, it was easy to get everything set up and to run. Every single piece of PEX is a solid piece, and so there's less points for failure. If I was doing it in copper, I would have to solder and do stuff with that. That was pretty difficult. So I didn't want to do that. And with the PEX system, I was able to easily label everything, easily test everything, and I used PEX crimps for everything. I got all of my equipment through Amazon on Prime Day, which was great. Got it at great deals. I'll link to the stuff that I bought. I do have a few notes about the PEX manifold that I got, and I'll probably do an in-depth review on that in general, because there's a few things that are kind of weird about it, things that I don't necessarily love. And when I bought the manifold, I think it was something like $92. Really good deal, because it was Prime Day. Be sure to check out for Prime Day. I got all of the other SharkBite PEX also on Prime Day as well. So honestly, getting all of the pipes run for everything just was a matter of planning and making sure that I wasn't missing anything. So we ran, to all of our faucets and our sinks, a hot and a cold. We ran to our ice maker for our refrigerator, a cold line, all the toilets, a cold line. That's why PEX manifolds have more cold lines and not just an equal number of hots and colds, because you have more cold lines that you use. So we had all of that. It was very simple to set up. It was very simple to run. It only took, I think, 2 days for us to run all the PEX for a 4-bedroom house, 2,200 square foot 4-bedroom house. So that was awesome. That didn't take very much time at all. The thing that took some time was this stuff, all of the venting and the draining. That stuff is pretty difficult if you've never had any experience with it. And when I say difficult, I mean new. Like everything that if you're going to think about building your house, instead of thinking things are difficult or hard. It's just new and you have to learn about it. There were some videos that were extremely helpful when I was learning all of the codes and requirements for draining and venting your plumbing. Vent pipes like this one ensure that there's not any bubbles inside. So if you've ever been at a house that's not properly vented, like when you fill up the sink, bubbles will come out because the air is trying to escape. When water comes through your system, as this is our sink, for example, so as water goes down this sink, it's pushing water through. Just like if you hold a straw, if you put your straw in a cup, you hold the end, the water won't come out because it creates a vacuum. What your vents allow is for air to push through and replace that air that's being pushed out, so it doesn't create a vacuum. And so it's difficult if you've never experienced this. It's new, something to learn, how to properly vent your plumbing, making sure that you're going to have the proper amount of venting. So things that you need to know are what size pipe you need to use based on if it's a shower, if it's a sink, if it's a toilet, and then also how to properly vent the system so that it is working well. There were 2 videos in particular that were extremely helpful. I will link those in the description. If you're thinking about plumbing and you want to know how to vent your own house and do drain lines, that's really important. Now, the hardest thing I think about the plumbing was putting in our 3-inch drain pipe, just because it's difficult to work with. It's really clunky, and you have to make sure that your drop is perfect. So basically, gravity is what does all the work with your sewage system and your waste drainage system. And so you want to make sure that it's dropping the right amount per foot. The code for our area for 3-inch drain pipe is 1/8 of an inch per foot is what it has to drop. If it drops too much, what will happen is that your liquid waste will travel faster than your solid waste. And when it gets to a point where maybe it's not perfect, or all your liquid waste goes away and then you have solid waste that's accumulating, you'll create clogs. So you don't want that to happen. By the same token, you don't want it to be too little bit, because then it'll just sit in the pipe and also create a clog. So that's really important to understand. And I think that was definitely the most difficult thing. When you're cutting 3-inch pipe and you're putting in 90s and you're connecting it all. So for example, this toilet hookup, which goes from a 4-inch to a 3-inch pipe, you just have to measure perfectly, and you start to get a feel for how to measure everything out, because with the couplings you have the lip inside of it, so you have to give and adjust for that, and so everything has to be measured out perfectly, and it just has to fit perfect. Luckily, it's not that long. One other thing that we had an issue with was when we first did our futures for the plumbing, we made a few mistakes. The toilet was too close to the bathtub. We had to end up breaking out the concrete, moving the pipe over, setting new concrete, and then we had a drain that we were planning on using for our master bedroom that was actually a 2-inch, and it wasn't proper. And so, just not having experience beforehand and not doing enough research, we didn't know that that wasn't the proper way to do things. So that 2-inch hole did not work, which was a bummer. So we ended up having to take the drain line from our master bath, which is right there, and we actually ran it all the way over to connect in to this line, which goes out in a 3-inch pipe and works properly. So all that to say is it's a good thing that we used 16-inch high TJIs, because we had enough drop through that whole span and the distance that we went. If we didn't, I don't know what we would have done. It would have been very expensive. So you want to make sure that if you're thinking about it, do more research. These 2 videos that I found are extremely helpful, and maybe consult with a licensed plumber in your area too. That's probably really helpful. To be honest though, in building our house, every single thing that we've had difficulty with or didn't know how to do, we could find something on YouTube that would teach us how to do it. Whether it was how to drive a telehandler, how to build a steel building. We're going to be putting in our windows soon. Like, there's videos that I've watched that have taught me how to do everything. And obviously, like, the best, I think, teacher would be somebody who's done it before, that is proficient at that skill, that could teach you everything and help you through the learning curve. But if that's not available to you, YouTube has literally everything that you need to know. It's amazing. So as somebody who hates plumbing in general, like anytime I've had a plumbing issue, I've hated it. I don't know how things work. in the past, I just had this resistance towards doing plumbing. Having done it now for our house, I still don't enjoy it, but it wasn't the hardest thing to do. Like, I enjoyed plumbing better than I liked putting up heavy drywall. It just was faster and easier, to be completely honest. So if you're thinking about, like, can I do this? Can I actually get it done? I totally think you can. Just make sure, number one, that you know what your local building codes are, that you're competent with the plan of where everything's going to be, where it's going to be laid out, what you need in terms of piping, pipe size, fittings. There's a lot of rules about, you know, what kind of couplings you can use. You need long Ys to do horizontal transitions and short connectors for vertical transitions, and just all of these rules that you'll learn through those 2 videos that I mentioned that are really, really helpful. So be sure to check those out. But I believe in you. You can do it, okay? If you're interested in homesteading or building your own house, be sure to subscribe. I appreciate any comments, engagement, or anything that you can do on this video. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody.